Hello, everybody. We are here at Mount Miroku, Otani Yama Mountain Peaks, just about an hour north of Nagoya, northeast. We are in Aichi Prefecture, still just butted up against Gifu Prefecture, Japan. And we're going to hike this. We got here and we were hanging out for about 30 minutes getting ready. I flew the drone to take a look at the trail, see if it wired off many times, how many forks there were, if there was any wildlife, how wet the trail was. Couldn't get any good photo from the top because the drone can't see down through all the thick, treetops. I actually crashed the drone trying to get it, trying to land. It had it on auto land mode, and it started listing backwards and it crashed. So, nevertheless, I didn't want to crash trying to get video, but I did crash just landing the drone. Ridiculous, but it's okay. I wiped it off, actually got it back in the air later on. And no harm, no foul, right? So we are stepping off and the ground is wet. We're a little bit cautious because of the wet ground. And I wore hiking sneakers. She wore running sneakers. My friend Keo is with me. And nevertheless, though, there were some runners that ran past us later with some running shoes on. So it didn't really make too much of a difference. We're not really getting into any thick brush. We're all on like trails most of the way where it is cleared out, and so there's no need to have on too much hiking gear. It's not like we're going to run into any jagged stuff, and we're not expected to run into wildlife. But in the beginning, we did see a sign that there was a Buddha sighting 6 months ago. Buddha is a wild boar. That's the Japanese term, Buddha, for wild boar. And they have sharp teeth. So we hit our first little sign that kind of lets us know how far we got to go. They have those signs all over the trail. I set up the Strava app so I can start tracking which direction we're going, how far we're going. We should be hiking for about 2.5 hours and should be about 5 miles. So Strava will help me figure out which way we went, how far we've been, stuff like that, how long we've been hiking. The cool thing about the taking the pictures is that in the event that you come across a sign later on in the trail and you're like, did we do this already? You can just open up your pictures. And I usually put these on Instagram because it serves a couple of purposes. It shares with you guys or my friends and family like where I'm going. Also, it helps me look back and say, oh yeah, I did see this sign. This is where we started, or this is another direction, another path to get back to where we want to. And also, if anything ever happens and I don't make it back, especially when I'm hiking alone, you can be like, hey, last thing we saw on his Instagram like a week ago was he was hiking, and that was the last picture posted was one of this sign. So yeah, that's a rather dark reason, but I do that for a few reasons, and it serves me well to have those pictures on Instagram or saving those so I can look back at them later on for myself. So if you'll notice this time warp setting on the GoPro 8, GoPro 7 and 8, I believe it's on 6 as well. When you set up the time warp setting, it's like little snapshots of video. When you're walking or moving, it's recording very fastly. It's recording the foot. It's just making it look like you're going very fast. And then when you stop to rest or whatever, the video slows down to regular record speed. It's kind of a cool feature if you know you're going to do something very long and you want to condense it down to a short video, because I'm sure no one's going to sit and watch 2.5 hours of hiking video. So I figured I would put it on the time warp video. You don't get a clear video of everything I'm passing and looking at, but when I do stop to take a picture of something or to check the map, you can see clearly like where I am and what I'm doing. So, but I don't know. Maybe in future videos I will try to do just video only and then just edit the greatest parts of it. I don't know. Let me know what you think is better, this time warp of the entire thing, or just clips of actual video, and maybe cut it down to a nice 5 to 10 minute format. Um, Here's my friend Keo posing for a couple of pictures, which I'll send her later, and she'll put on her Instagram or whatever. We get to the top of this one, through collaborative navigation, mostly my navigation experience, I would say, but I did have help because there were some signs that I really couldn't read. It's always like that hiking in Japan. Most of the signs are in kanji, hiragana, katakana. You have to read that to know where you're going. Uh, but I gotta say, most of the trails are loops, and if you can kind of just take a picture, you can get yourself back to your car usually. And we took off from there after about 15 minutes of drinking water and eating some snacks and stuff, and we hit this descent. The descent drops us down on like a ridge line. It's like a very covered ridge line that takes us from one peak to another. The next peak that we're going to is Otani Yama, which was on the map. Miroku and Otani Yama is on the map. There's a third peak that we hit that is not on the map. So hit this descent, and the thing that we're checking out here a few times, there's trails off to the right, which we learned lead down to a park. There's a hiker we just passed there coming from Otaniyama Peak. But yeah, the trails to the right lead down to a park where a bunch of people were camping and they were hiking up. So several times as we're walking forward, not expecting any trails that head off to the right because they're not on our map, we see these signs pointing over there, and we realize they all lead down to a park. So don't go that way, because if we go that way, we're going to end up in a park at the base of the mountain, and we parked on the other side of the mountain. So the only way to get back to the car uh, would be to take a hour long walk around the base of the mountain, or hike back to the top and down the other side, about a mile up and a mile back down. So we're at the peak. I believe this is the second peak. This is Otaniyama. That's what that sign there says. We're at that peak, 425 meters of elevation. And the thing that brought up a lot of conversation here is because a lot of times there's some trails. Also, this one led down to the park I was talking about, but they're unmarked. They're not on your Google map. They're not on your Strava app. They're not on all trails, and they're just ghost trails. And we're sitting there, and I think we ended up taking the marked one. The marked one that actually got us to the next peak that we were surprised by. But yeah, whenever you see those ghost trails, sometimes they Y off and they come back together with the main trail, and they're just extra paths that were forged out by people in the past hiking. I'm not sure if they were intentionally put there, but they kind of throw you for a loop, especially if they're kind of in the same direction as the main trail. Because then, without the sign, you're sitting there trying to figure out, whoa, is this really the right direction? So, as we ascend one more time, we are, yeah, passing a hiker there. We are still on a major trail, and we're heading in the right direction because the town that we're trying to get to, Kyogi Town, is a good parking spot for other hikers to park and hike the opposite direction that we are. We see this forest temple. My friend goes over, says a prayer. I see these a lot in Japan. I see this a lot in Okinawa. You see this a lot in the towns, the cities, on the hiking trails. And I always like to take a quick little picture of them, just because they're interesting. You don't see these everywhere. I saw these in Taiwan, but and they're real colorful in Taiwan, but these in Japan are just like, they're simple, like little wood structures that are built, and they're maintained, because if not, they would fall apart. But because they're out there with all the elements and humidity and, you know, rain, and but they're maintained, so they're still together, and but they just look so simple. And I guess people come out and they do events at them, and they say prayers and stuff like that. You got this peak that we get here too. This peak is not on my app, so this one kind of threw me for a loop. This peak had 5 different offshoots, 5 different trails coming down, 5 different directions. We hiked up one way, and there were 4 other ways to go down. And I'm like, oh man, this was not expected. So I spent quite a bit of time making sure that we did not end up in that park. But one of the things that was throwing me off, or both of us off, was we're trying to hike to an area called Kyogi, and the thing is, there are signs pointing to Kyogi Town and Kyogi Yama. Well, you know, not I'm sorry, Kyogi River, Kawa, and Kyogi Machi. So we don't know if we're trying to get to which one we're trying to get to, because my map only says go to Kyogi. It doesn't say go to the river or the town. So nevertheless, we figured it out. I figured in the end, if we just go to the town, we can't lose. If we go to the river, it might be wrong, and then we're nowhere near a town, and the town would definitely be on a paved surface where we can walk back to the car. So we end up hiking down to the town, which turned out to be the right choice. It just wasn't listed on the app that way. None of the trails on the top of this peak were listed on the app. They were just it just showed one way up, and I think it showed 2 ways down, but there were actually 2 more extra trails that we had to contend with deciding which way to go. So the battery dies here in just a minute or so, but to summarize, we hiked down to the bottom, walked back to the car on the hard surface for about 30 minutes, and then we went over to a little cafe called Cafe Montana, had iced coffee, iced cappuccino. I'd recommend this place. We had a really good hike. We enjoyed it. This was a very interesting trail, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be as much as it is, and it turned out to be pretty challenging peaks, pretty cleared out pathways, so that was fun. If you're a beginner, I would definitely say this is something you would want to do. But yeah, Mount Miroku, Otani Yama. This is a great little trail, northeast Aichi, just outside of Nagoya by about an hour. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.